Hello, everyone, and welcome. My name is Claire Rabbit. I'm with Clearly Energy. We're excited to have you here today for our Frederick County Showcase Cohort meeting. I know that some of you have been on before, and so as a reminder to those of you who have, or for anyone who may be joining for the first time or who is new to the Maryland cohort, just a reminder that this cohort is a part of a broader DOE-funded project called Designing and Implementing Building Performance Standards in Small and Rural Communities. And Clearly Energy is the prime for this project. We work with our partners here in Maryland and the folks at NEEP, and we also have cohorts across the country. For example, we have one in California, one in West Virginia, one in the Southeast region. But for our Maryland cohort, and welcome to everyone who's joining. There are a few more trickling in. For our Maryland cohort, for those of you who are just joining us for the first time, welcome. We're so excited to have you. And some of the topics that we've covered in past meetings have been things like data acquisition, benchmarking 101, benchmarking deep dive. We had folks from DOE come and give a presentation on audits and some of the resources available for that. And then, of course, today we also have our spotlight on Frederick County. So our agenda for today, we're going to cover some resources for the Maryland Building Energy Performance Standards. There will be an update on federal funding. We'll have our Frederick County showcase, some time for discussion and Q&A, as well as resources and other upcoming meetings. So we would like to keep this session as interactive as possible. So if you want to drop in the chat, your name, your jurisdiction, and anything that you're hoping to learn from this meeting, or if you have any questions. And I will just highlight again that we'll have time for discussion and Q&A, and we really do want to give you all time to share your feedback, what your needs may be, and have that chance to answer any questions that you may have. And with that, I will turn it over to Sam for a little bit about the Maryland BEPS.
Thanks, Claire. Good morning, everyone. Good to see some of you again. My name is Sam Furio. I'm the outreach coordinator for the building decarbonization team at the Maryland Department of the Environment. If you've joined the cohort before, you've heard my spiel a few times. If this is your first time, then you're going to hear it right now, and bear with me, everyone else. Our team is responsible for implementing the building energy performance standards that are now in effect for the state of Maryland. And so not really talking specifically about BEPS too much today, but I just wanted to provide a couple resources for those of you that maybe haven't joined too many cohort sessions, or you're just starting out with BEPS and want to learn more. So on the screen, I've got a couple QR codes. Really, all you need to know about the regulation you can find through the BEPS website. That QR code on the left side of the screen will take you there. That is like one-stop shop for BEPS. There's a lot of good resources on the website right now. We just overhauled it in January, if you haven't tuned into it for a while. We've also been running a lot of outreach sessions throughout 2024, including like live demos and webinars. We're going to continue running them through 2025. And you can sign up for our email lists and those webinars through the QR code on the right side of the screen. And so for those of you that have been active in our working group and outreach sessions over the last year, thank you for that. And I would just say stay tuned. We're going to be releasing some updates on some new working groups that are coming out here soon, and then also some new office hours for some of our existing working groups to help you all with any lingering questions you have. But I just want to remind everyone that last month we issued a compliance advisory for the regulation that this year in particular, getting your benchmarking reports to MDE, you There's typically the June 1st deadline each year, but this year we've extended that benchmarking time frame to September 1st. So just make sure you know that deadline for benchmarking reports this year is September 1st. And with that, if you have any other questions for us, as always, you can email us at beps.mde@maryland.gov or give us a call at 410-537-3183. You guys are in great hands today. I'm super excited to see what Frederick County is showcasing. They're doing great work. And so I'll turn it over, I think, next to Lacey to talk federal funding, and we'll get going. Thanks, everyone.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much again to the BEPS cohort for having me for this meeting again, just like the last one. So I'm here to talk about federal funding update specifically for the Energy Efficiency and Conservation Block Grant, also known as EECBG. If you could go to the next slide, please. So I just wanted to provide some clarity on federal changes. So MEA, the Maryland Energy Administration, is under contract with the U.S. Department of Energy. And so any update or clarification about this program, such as new guidance from the DOE, will be available on our website. So just search EECBG Maryland, and it's likely going to be the first thing to come up. In addition, MEA will communicate clarifications and updates made directly to applicants or grantee as applicable by email. So we'll send updates to email if we know anyone's interested. I think I might be getting some feedback. If you guys want to, I'll double check that you have your mics muted. Thank you. And the final grant amount is subject to funding availability for the program and any relevant statutory requirements applicable at that time. So all of this just to say, we'll let you know if there are any updates, but so far, like, this program is still a go. And so with this, with all the kind of confusion around it, we have extended the deadline to April 30th, 2025. Before it was April 1st. So we're giving you the whole month of April to fill it out. And we have a bunch of resources for this. But in case you don't know, what we're looking for with EECBG is just planning projects. And so I have a list for things like what that kind of looks like. What exactly do you do in a planning project? So stakeholder engagement, education, and outreach. There's energy data collection to establish a baseline. Baseline is really important to make sure you're making a difference in your energy usage. You develop an energy vision, goals, and strategies. And then finally, you write, adopt, and publicize a plan. But if you need more information, if you need handholding with this, that's why we have these new resources also on our website. It will literally tell you what to do, and we will give you the money to do it. All that you have to do is just kind of sign off. And I also want to let you know this doesn't fund the actual infrastructure projects themselves. If you want to have an energy efficiency project like LED retrofits, you want to get LEDs in your building, this project does not fund it, but we do have another project that does. It's called the Maryland Smart Energy Communities, and I'm also overseeing that program. It is closed for now. It just closed at the end of January, but it will open again in the fall. So reach out to me if you have any questions. If you've already participated in MSEC before, then you'll fill out a different application compared to new applicants. So if you don't know if you've participated or if your municipality has participated before, feel free to reach out and ask. It's a pretty simple answer for me to find for you. And also email me at msec or msec.mea@maryland.gov as it lists on the slide. That's all for me, and I'll go ahead and pass it to the next person.
Great. Thank you so much, Sam and Lacey. And I am going to pass it off to Ben and his team in Frederick County.
Hello. Thank you, MDE and MEA, for having us as the guest speakers today. My name is Ben Burrows. I'm a program administrator for the Division of Climate and Energy at Frederick County. And we'll give you guys some updates of what we're doing. So now I'm going to pass it to Emma, and she'll give her introduction.
Hi everyone, my name is Emma Tarquinio, and I'm a Chesapeake Conservation and Climate Corps member with Frederick County's Division of Energy and Environment. And I spent a lot of time assisting Ben in Frederick County's actions towards compliance with BEPS since I started in August, and it became part of my capstone project. And I'm excited to help Ben in talking about the great things we are up to. So yeah, next slide. So to start out, this is just a brief overview of what our presentation consists of, starting with a little background about Frederick County and the action plan we already have in place that made our transition to BEPS a little smoother, and then a quick overview of Frederick County's actions towards compliance of BEPS, and then Ben will explain the energy audits and grant funding side of operations. Next slide, please. So for those of you who may not be familiar with Frederick County, we're the largest county by land area in the state of Maryland, made up of urban, suburban, rural, and even mountain communities. We are also the fastest growing county in Maryland. So Frederick County has been a leader in addressing climate change since the early 2000s. The county developed its first greenhouse gas inventory in 2007 and a comprehensive energy plan in 2010. More recently, in 2020, the County Council established the Climate Emergency Mobilization Work Group to provide recommendations on climate strategies. And in 2021, the County Executive and the County Council launched several climate initiatives. In addition to this, the 2022 update to the Frederick County Hazard Mitigation Plan included actions to reduce risk from climate hazards. And in 2023, the county executive began implementing the Internal Climate Energy Action Plan, also known as the CAP. So the CAP provides a roadmap for the county to reduce its contribution to climate change and prepare for a changing climate. The CAP documents the county's strategy to measure and reduce greenhouse gas emissions from county operations and to identify and reduce climate risks. So this internal CAP aligns with state and regional goals while building on the county's previous climate resiliency actions. And now the division is working on the community-wide climate and energy action plan. So Frederick County conducted a greenhouse gas inventory, as I mentioned before, of its government operations to understand current sources and drivers of its emissions trends. As this graph shows, the largest source of greenhouse gas emissions from county operations include energy-related buildings and facilities emissions, which account for about half of the county government's emissions. Buildings and facilities and transportation sources together account for 80 to 90% of the county government's emissions. Next slide, please. So as mentioned in the last slide, BEPS aligns with county goals to reduce emissions. So how are we proceeding with BEPS within the county? We began benchmarking with our 10 buildings, and with help from Department of Public Works, buildings that are 35,000 square feet were determined with 10 county buildings identified and 415 commercial buildings within the community. Therefore, to reach compliance, one of the things the division created was a strategic plan that plans every 5 years out, and this helps us plan how to make these improvements of the BEPS buildings. Then we began educating staff within the Office of Project Management, Department of Public Works, Planning and Permitting, and Facilities Maintenance through presentations. At first, it was overwhelming, but as we researched more into the regulations, we realized it was much more manageable than we thought, and we already have some buildings that are in compliance. Next slide, please.
All right, I'll take over the energy audits. Thank you, Emma. Great job. So we have our 10 buildings that are over 35,000 square feet. So now we want to get a baseline of the energy consumption in these buildings. So we are participating with level 2 energy audits of these buildings. The energy audits help us understand the building's energy performance. It also gives us ECMs, energy conservation measures, help us determine a path to develop energy efficiency in these buildings. We also use utility incentives through Potomac Edison and Washington Gas to help cover some of this cost. And it's a great experience to educate your staff. We felt, doing energy audits, we bring all the staff in together with the facility, building managers, and also educate the staff when we get the reports back. We like to share it as a team so everybody in the building understands that we're serious and that we want to make these buildings more energy efficient. Next slide, please. Economics. So the biggest question about the BEPS is the funding cost. So there is great incentives out there through the Empower Maryland Act. I would highly, you know, give you guys advice to take advantage of that money. We implemented a rebate policy at Frederick County. In the past, the rebate money went back to a general fund. So we talked with a lot of different agencies, and now we have a policy in effect where that money goes back into the account that paid for them energy upgrades to the buildings. So that helps us implement more energy projects down the road when the money comes back to our bank accounts. So that's been very helpful. Also, grant funded for us to make some of these upgrades. We depend a lot on MEA for grant opportunities. I'll show you guys in the next couple slides of grants that we applied for and that help us hit these goals. Also, a lot of these energy efficiency projects come from the operating and capital improvement budgets across different agencies. So I work with multiple agencies to identify the, strategic plan for 5 years of how we're going to make these buildings more energy efficient. Next slide, please. So we got some MSEC grant for some of the parks here. So MEA Soul Grant was very helpful. I'll give you guys a little statistics. We changed out 103 LED fixtures at Liberty Town Park, Middletown Park, and Fountain Rock Park. The total cost of this project was $86,000. Our incentives from Potomac Edison was about $59,000. Our reimbursement from MEA was about $23,000. So out of pocket, Frederick County Parks and Rec only paid about $4,000 for these energy upgrades. Our savings to investment ratio, these LED lights are going to pay for themselves in less than a year. So we really like to take advantage of MSEC grants to help with the LED upgrades. You can see the next big project we did was Pine Cliff Park. We had 2 phases in that LED project. The first phase, we changed out half the lights. The second phase, we changed out the rest of the lights in the park, also pavilion lights to LEDs. MSEC, currently we have a Thurmont Library grant. Thurmont Library is not on Potomac Edison's power grid. So working with facility maintenance and talking with the team, we looked at opportunities that would help pay for the cost of the LED upgrades. And that's why we applied for a grant and got awarded because there is no utility incentives at Thurmont. So that's a project we're currently working on right now. Next slide, please. So you can see some of the work that we've done. Like Emma kind of said previously, and I'll talk about future is portfolio manager. My best advice to everybody is first steps is set up portfolio manager. Portfolio manager is a great tool. So we also track our energy upgrades. So last year we saved about 600,000 kilowatts. And then rebate incentives that I got back from Potomac Edison and Washington Gas was about $212,000. And this helps us make more energy efficiency projects in the future. We also work with stormwaters in our division. So on the $9 million grant funding received, that's not just all climate and energy. This is also stormwaters division. So you can see that we are pretty grant heavy in our division. Next slide, please. So this is key, partnerships. I built a relationship with facility maintenance. I have regular check-ins with the staff. We put energy efficiency policies in. So anytime the staff makes a motor upgrade or any kind of energy efficiency upgrade, the staff or the building managers usually call me and let me know that, hey, a system broke, we're going to upgrade it, and that gives me time to apply for rebates and look for rebates that are available out there. We also inform the staff about the BEPS regulations. We engage the staff about energy consumption in the buildings. So I have a little office over at facility maintenance, and I like to interact with the guys and, make energy upgrades. And they also let me know, problems they might see at some buildings. So that gives us a baseline of where to start on making energy upgrades. We also give presentations, like Emma said previously, to building managers, OPM, DPW, to let people know about the BEPS regulations. So if you want to build a new building in Frederick County, the planning and permits division also knows about the regulations, so nobody's caught off guard. Parks and Rec, like I said on my previous slide, I work a lot with Parks and Rec about LED upgrades and going over their project list and researching grants or opportunities to change out some of our lighting. Libraries. This is our library downtown Frederick. This is a BEPS building, so it's a big building. We're starting to do energy audits at a lot of our libraries to give us a baseline of where it stands. We also communicate with the staff at the library to let them know that we're doing an energy audit, and we like to share the energy audits with the staff or the building managers so they understand. And also during the energy audit, we also like to hear, information from the homeowners, not the homeowner, the employees, if they're comfortable in the buildings or how we can make comfort issues better for them. So working with all these divisions helps us achieve our climate and energy action plan. Next slide, please. So this is Portfolio Manager, data management. So I can't tell you how important this is setting up Portfolio Manager. Us at Frederick County, we have a system in place. We use a third party called NLX or UBM. They pay for all of our electric bills. Then also they upload all of our electric bills into Portfolio Manager. Part of my job when I came to the county about 2 years ago was to set up Portfolio Manager, make sure all of our square footage was accurate. So Emma and I have been really working hard at Portfolio Manager, and also we've connected to MDE. So MDE does have our connection to all the 10 buildings. And as you can see down on the metrics summary, we updated all of our metric summaries, and we were very surprised that a couple of our buildings already met the building standards compliance. So we're super stoked to see that, but we also have more improvement to make at some of our buildings. But my advice to anyone out there is set up Portfolio Manager. Don't panic until you start seeing the numbers that Portfolio Manager gives you. And also, we have a master spreadsheet of all my county facilities. We have about 75 facilities, buildings, street lights, and every year we do a fiscal year, how much energy we're using. We also do a calendar year to see how much energy consumption we're using, and that also gives us a baseline of what buildings to focus on. Our buildings are, BEPS, we're focused on our 10 buildings, but we're all also focused on the big energy hogs that we have at our county facilities. Next slide, please. So some of the low-hanging fruit of electrification projects we did. Parks and Rec had an oil furnace at Ballinger Creek maintenance shop. So we went in and we installed a heat pump. We did the same thing at Pine Cliff Park. At the maintenance shop there, we installed a heat pump to get off a oil furnace. Brunswick Library, we had a propane fireplace, so we're currently replacing that fireplace with an electric fireplace. And DE is going to monitor the energy cost savings of these projects. So I know how much oil we got delivered each year to these sites, how much propane we got delivered to the library every year. So going forward, we're just gonna, analyze the portfolio manager data to just make sure that these projects were cost savings. And I'm pretty sure we're gonna see great savings at these buildings with our electrification. So we also have a strategic plan for 5 years for more electrification of county-owned facilities, but these were kind of our low-hanging fruit, easy jobs to go in. We also pretty lucky at facility maintenance. We do have an HVAC crew on staff, so my HVAC crew has installed most of all these projects for us, which helps with the cost of the overall project. Next slide, please. Projects. These are some of the big projects we're working on. As you can see next to the name of the buildings, if you see a little star next to it, that's our BEPS buildings. So we're not always set on making improvements to BEPS buildings, but we are focused on hitting our compliance of the CEAP goals of reducing our greenhouse gases. So at Urbana Library this year, we installed all new LED lighting, we installed a power meter, and we implemented setbacks in the building. Tilco Warehouse, we are installing a power meter, and we're gonna make future setbacks in the building. So if people don't know what a setback is, that's what we do with the HVAC system. So a lot of these buildings are 9 to 5 hours of operation. Then about 6, 7 o'clock at night, we slow down that HVAC system, and then about 8, 9, or about 2 hours before they open, about 7 o'clock, we kick the HVAC systems back on, and we are seeing great savings. 30 North Market is another building we have our eyes on for implementing power meters and making some energy upgrades. The courthouse is a big building, but it's all electric, and we're installing power meters and doing LED upgrades in the future. Health department, same thing. We're going to implement setbacks, and we're planning on doing level 2 energy audits. Thurmont Library is the same thing. LED upgrades. This was an MSEC project that we got $150,000 to help with the cost. And CCRC is another one. We're installing high efficiency boilers and water heaters at this site. This was pretty cool. We did a feasibility study to see how efficient the boilers and water heaters were working. Currently, we had 8 hot water heaters. This is a pretty large facility, and the feasibility study said that we could cut back the water heaters to 5. So that was good. We enjoyed working as a team to see that feasibility study. And we are planning on doing a level 2 energy audit here. Next slide, please. So implementing, power meters also gives us real live data about the energy consumption in the building. So on the very far left, you can see how high our energy consumption was. And then about middle of the graph, we implemented the setbacks. And you can see we implemented the setbacks from office hours, weekends, and also holiday breaks. So on the be the right hand side or maybe left hand side for you guys where we dropped that energy consumption, that was the weekend over Thanksgiving. So we could see that we really cut back on the energy. So everybody has their opinions about making setbacks in a building, but we are seeing great numbers. And we also are taking into consideration of comfort issues of employees. We don't like to tell the employees we're going to implement setbacks, but we are implementing setbacks, and then when the complaints come in, then we can handle with the complaints. But this graph shows great pictures of the setbacks and the energy savings. And with these setbacks, we also did get a nice rebate check back from Potomac Edison. So we're seeing great numbers. Next slide, please. And I will turn this back to Emma.
So we are still in the beginning stages of our outreach efforts, but we have had some community members reach out asking for more information. So we recently did a presentation at Buckingham's Choice Care Facility, and they had a sustainability commission that really just wanted to learn more about the state regulation, but they actually had 3 buildings that are considered BEPS buildings. So it was a very productive presentation. And our goal is to inform folks about the regulations and be a resource for members of the community that need any help with the requirements, like setting up portfolio manager and making sure their buildings are in the portal. And as I mentioned, our outreach efforts are still in the beginning stages, but we are presenting at Mobilize Frederick's annual climate summit. So we'll be presenting on BEPS and what we've been doing within the community. And we're still in the beginning stages. So if residents reach out to us, we're more than willing to meet them out in the community and inform them about BEPS. And yeah, we'll be at the Mobilize Frederick Climate Summit if anyone wants to attend. So yeah, next slide, please.
Yep, and thank you. That was our little presentation. There's my contact information if anyone needs it. And I guess at this time we'll start answering some questions if people have any questions for us.
Thank you so much, Ben and Emma. That was great. It looks like we already have a couple questions trickling here in the chat. And just as a reminder, please add any questions, comments, or reactions to the chat. But the first question for you all to start us off is, how do you choose which buildings you'll do a feasibility study for?
So CCRC, we, decided to do a feasibility study there is because we stayed on natural gas, and we looked at other options, also combined heat and power, and it just wasn't feasible at that time to make the switch of electrification. So that was an important conversation, about the electrification at CCRC, but it's a citizen care rehab center, so that building has to be operating 24/7, 7 days a week. So it didn't make sense, but in the future, down the road, we are considering combined heat and power for that building.
Great, thank you. And then the second question we have here is, what about decarbonizing buildings, changing out natural gas fired equipment in large buildings?
Yep. So I would recommend doing an energy audit of that building, a level 2 energy audit, because they can give you that data from softwares to let you know where, if it's feasible to go electric and how much is going to be the savings. So changing out our 24-hour facilities is going to be a challenge. I won't lie, but we do have a law enforcement center, that's CCRC, and one more building I can't think of the top of my head right now. But the 24-hour facilities are going to be challenger because we can't implement setbacks and then buildings have to run. So we just want to get that compliance fee or the alternative compliance fee as low as possible to make that difference.
Great, thank you. And it looks like Andy has a question as well that he wants to ask verbally. And also just as a side note, if anyone does want to come off mute and ask a question, you are welcome to ask that way as well.
Yeah, I didn't know quite how to type out my question. But Ben, I'm thinking back, I think it was the finance slide. You mentioned some pathway where you worked with other agencies to like re-funnel funding back into rebates or back into improvements. And I'm wondering if you could reiterate that point, because I think that is a really good point for other people to know how you did that. And what agencies did you have to work with to make that pathway possible?
Okay, no problem. Um, so we had to work with the finance and the budget department about the rebate into how the rebates came back. Um, Funny little story, but we got a $68,000 rebate check back from Potomac Edison. So that was pretty much the start of the fire. So they saw all this money coming back into the program and it was going back into the general funds. It wasn't coming back into facility maintenance, operating, or their capital investment accounts. So we worked hard. I had a director at facility maintenance that supported me on getting the money back to our accounts so we can spend it. So we put a policy together. So I worked with the finance division. So anytime a rebate check comes in to Frederick County, I let them know. I have a share spreadsheet with them. So I let them know, hey, this is one of my rebate checks coming back to the county. We have to do a budget journal, so we have to write a staff memo and a budget journal, and that has to go to county council to vote on. They vote on it, but county council hasn't denied any of our money from going back into the accounts, the capital or operating accounts it came out of.
So for
So there was,
every rebate that comes back in, you have to go through that process.
yes.
Okay.
Um, so yeah, that $900 check, it's a lot of headache. But we're seeing, ten to $15,000 checks if we're changing out equipment coming back. So what we tried to do, we tried to bundle all the rebate checks together. So we just have to write one budget journal that goes to county council for approval, and then it comes back to our accounts. So we tried to work with Potomac Edison, Clear Result. They implement the rebate program. We just try to communicate with them. So when they batch checks, all of our projects are batched in that one time. It's just they're not sending us small checks because yeah, it can be a little headache for the finance side of doing a budget journal and a staff memo for a $900 check. Um, but that money's coming back, and then we can spend that money on more energy upgrades. We also take advantage of the instant discount LED upgrades. So if we're just installing, 10 to 15 light fixtures at a building, that money is going to pay for them 10 to 15 light fixtures.
Cool. Thank you. That's really helpful info.
No problem.
Yeah, thank you so much. I have another question here as well, that I was thinking of, and that is, do you have any advice or feedback or things that you wish you had have known getting started, based on any things that you found or aha moments that you have had?
I will say benchmarking is the most important part of everything right now. Um, Set up your portfolio manager, get all of your energy usage and data in there. Portfolio manager is also a great software. At the top of it is a little help button. They have live webinars if you don't understand it, and also they have a great, responsive help team. Send them an email, but like I said previously, Emma and I went through the benchmarking guidelines you guys sent out about 2 weeks ago, and we were just so excited to see some of our buildings already in the compliance of the BEPS regulations. So that's only good for 2035, but that also gives us a roadmap. Like I tell my facility guys, this isn't a marathon, you know. This is a marathon with the BEPS regulations, and we're just getting warmed up. So it's going to be a long road to help us. But you know, setting up portfolio manager gives you a status of where that building stands, and then go back to the benchmarking guide and see, you know, where your numbers have to be. And don't be discouraged. You know.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. So I'm not seeing any other questions, but if anyone would like to come off mute and let us know if there's anything that Frederick County covered that you'd like to implement in your own jurisdiction, or if you do have your own energy and climate action plan, we'd love to hear about that now if anyone wants to share with the group.
Claire, I do have two questions. Ben, what set points, how much are you reducing your set points? 2 degrees, 3 degrees? If you have a standard on that? And then I do have a follow-up question once you get done that.
Yeah, so it's about 2 to 3 degrees is our setbacks. We don't, you know, 2 to 3, and then we also implemented a rebate, a personal appliance policy too, because we did have staff bring in personal space heaters, mini refrigerators. So we are working with our county executive and her administration to help implement, you know, thermostat policies and also uh, personal appliance policies, because we don't want. I work hard enough, and I get so discouraged when I walk through a building and see a space heater running underneath somebody's desk, because you know they can just communicate with us, but it's about 2 to 3 degrees.
Okay. And then do you ever work with your contractors to where the contractor gets the rebate? So initially, instead of paying X amount and going through that rebate process, they go through the rebate process and give you a reduced, I guess, price for the installation of products?
Yes, correct. We do that too. It all depends on the project, but some projects like the lighting projects, that goes back to the contractor. I just need a copy of that receipt or that check that that contractor got, just in case Frederick County gets audited. We have documentation to back up that we didn't receive that funding. So that's another thing with the finance department I work with, is just making sure when you get that offer letter or work order from the third party, keep that with the projects. When the rebate checks go back to another contractor, sometimes I like it that way because I don't have to go through procurement, um, and make sure they have contracts underneath us. So that is very helpful sometimes. The contractor just gets the incentive, but we need to make sure we have all that documented just in case we get audited.
Thank you.
Yep, you're welcome. Great questions.
Yes, thank you, Jason and Ben. Anyone else have any questions or anything they want to share? It looks like we just got another question in the chat asking, are you leasing or buying your power meters, and what are you using them for in addition to HVAC setbacks? Do you have an ESCO helping you?
Yeah, so we are buying our power meters. What are we using them for? Honestly, for HVAC setbacks, to get incentives. So for us to get incentives from Potomac Edison, we need 2 weeks of trending data before the setbacks. We implement the setbacks, then we trend the data for another 2 to 3 weeks to see them savings. And also with the power meters, if we want to put VAV boxes in the HVAC systems, we can trend that data too to make sure that we're saving energy by looking at our power meters. And do you use Eco helping you? No, I use a third-party contractor to help us with the power meters. So we have Easy. They're one of our contractors. We have a contract with them, and they help us implement the setbacks.
Great, thanks, Ben. Any sorry, did someone just come off mute? Maybe that was me. Any other questions before we move on? Any comments? Okay. Well, thank you so much to Ben, Emma, as well as the MDAE and MEA folks for this has been a really great meeting. And now I just want to ask everyone what topics you would like to see covered in future meetings. We are actively planning future webinars and next sessions, and we'd love to hear your input of what you'd like to see and what you'd like to have covered. So if you want to drop ideas in the chat, that would be great. You're also welcome to come off mute and shout them out, or you can email them to us or drop them in the Google Classroom as well, which we'll get to the link to on the next slide. Awesome. Thank you, Maddie. So some ideas so far are PPAs, offset solar. We also have been talking through a financing webinar with Maryland Clean Energy Center. So just to queue up some ideas, that's something we have been discussing. Joy says RECs. Looks like we have some support for that idea as well from Ashley.
Claire, I have a question.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we are, interested in helping MDE with some outreach to our community property owners for the BEPS that apply to them. And we have some channels, we can work through to do that. So, but I guess I'm a little unclear exactly what MD has done in terms of property owners in our counties. So maybe, I don't know if this is something they can get into right now, but maybe they can kind of touch base with us on kind of what they've done and then maybe ways that we can help them assist with getting the word out. And I know Frederick County has mentioned, starting to do some outreach, but we'd love to just know, kind of what's been done and how we can help.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Beth. And Sam, do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, definitely. Thanks, Beth, for that great question and the interest in spreading the word. So, right now there's a lot of covered buildings in the state of Maryland. There's a lot of stakeholders that, for BEPS. And so right now we're casting a wide net and working to get the word out there, through a lot of working group engagement and informational sessions we've been holding. But it is, like I said, there's a lot of covered buildings we model. There's over 9,000 in the state that will need to comply with BEPS. So there's a lot of outreach that needs to be done. We intend to send out mailers to owners of covered buildings later this year. And so that is another, tool in our outreach belt that we're going to use this year alongside, our traditional engagement that we've been using up until now. And so with that, there's, still going to be plenty of need. And I think going off what Frederick County just showed, we are more than happy to provide you with resources, presentation materials, one-pagers, whatever you need to, talk with your constituents or talk with your, facilities teams about the requirements. And, if you're unsure about the requirements and need clarification, I think I'd be more than happy to, hop on presentations with you and tag team. And so bottom line is, like, whatever you need to talk with folks, we're here to help, supply that information to you. And I can also, and know that Becky Price with MEA and the Clean Building Sub would be more than happy to get you resources, or, talk with you more about the requirements and financial incentives that, are relevant and available. So, yeah, there's a ton of outreach to do, and, I appreciate you thinking of that. And yeah, if you've got questions coming in from its constituents, we can stack you up with resources to answer them.
Great, thank you, Sam. I might actually reach out to you, through email, because I think you all said you have lists that you can share with us, so that we might be also able to kind of track down some of the owners as well, and maybe even do some outreach to them specifically.
Yes, definitely. So I just dropped our email in the chat. That's for the BEPS team. So if you email that, you'll probably get me on the other end. So just feel free to, submit whatever you're thinking there, or whatever presentation opportunities or resources you need. You can go through there. And then also the list you mentioned. So one of our updates from this last month was we relocated the covered buildings list to this BEPS portal that you can now access through the BEPS website. And so I just dropped that link in the chat as well. So the BEPS portal is constantly changing, or the covered buildings list is constantly changing. So now the list is housed on this portal where we can make live updates to it. But through there, you can, sort buildings in the state that are potentially covered by the regulation by address, and location, and determine and also see where they're located. So I think that's a great resource as well. But that is where that's now located, through the BEPS website.
Thanks again, Sam. Yeah, I totally forgot you had mentioned that previously. So yes, we will go there and look at the list. But thanks
Sounds
again for
good.
the info.
Yeah, of course. And yeah, let us know if you have any questions.
Will do. Thanks.
Thank you, Sam and Beth. That was a great question. And we got a couple more ideas for topics as well in the chat. It looks like other topic ideas were legislative updates regarding changes to BEPS, if things pass, and estimating our ACP. So thank you everyone for your ideas. And if anything else comes up that you think of that you'd like to have covered, please feel free to send us an email or drop that in the Google Classroom. Here is a bit of information on next steps. We'll be reaching out soon with information on upcoming meetings. And we are, as I mentioned previously, planning a webinar in March covering Maryland Clean Energy Center financing and technical assistance offerings, which has not been scheduled yet, but we will reach out with more information on that. As a reminder, you can join the Maryland BEPS Cohort Google Classroom, which houses all cohort-related updates, items of interest, some MEA financing opportunities, things of that nature are all posted there as well. And I will include the link to join the classroom in follow-up emails and any communications that you receive via email. And MDE's YouTube playlist is also linked here, with resources for BEPS. And this is, as Sam mentioned earlier, a great place to visit, maybe if you're new to the cohort or just seeking more information on the policy. And as always, this webinar is being recorded and will be posted in the Google Classroom, as well as the slides. If you have any follow-up questions or you would like to contact us, here's a list of our emails. Thank you so much to everyone for all your participation and great questions. Thank you to Frederick County, Sam, Lacey. So thank you everyone for a great session.